This audiobook is presented by Blue Moon Studios, Pembrokeshire. The Ice Bear, read by Jackie Morris.
In the beginning of time, people and animals lived together on the earth, and there was no difference between them. Bear, human, raven, fox, even snow and ice, all had spirit, all had soul. The air was pure and clear as crystal. Words held a magic. A word spoken in chance, a wish or a whisper, would hold a magic that would shape the world. Into this world they were born, in the dark months, when the cold and the wind turned water to stone. So small, she held them close to keep them warm in the blue ice cave that was their world. But Raven tricked her. She stole away one child, carried him high into the darkness of winter, over the frozen sea. The bear wept when she found that her cub had gone. Her iced tears formed scars on her cheeks. She held her one child safer and closer and waited for the sun to rise. But she never forgot. Far away the hunter hurried home. He could smell the storm coming, the scent of snow on the knife edge of the wind, his last hunt before true winter. He had seals and a few hare to last until the sun rose again. He heard the deep cry of the raven, saw the black shape in the distance. The bird flew up as he drew closer, and there on the ground was a bundle, wrapped in a scrap of white fur. He scooped up the fur onto the sledge and hurried for home as the storm snapped its teeth at his heels. The storm came in fast, but his dogs moved faster. Safe home at last, they stored the food for the dark days ahead. They honoured the spirits of the hare and the seal. Then they unwrapped the bundle of cream-white fur. 2 eyes black as midwinter, dark hair like a raven's wing. 2 hands, fingers clawed by the cold. A child. For 7 years they'd longed for a child. His mother made him a parka of sealskin. She lined it with the fur of the white wolf and decorated it with patterns of coloured beads and the white-tailed vermin. For 7 years she'd held him close, sang him songs and lullabies. They sang to him of the seal and the whale, the owl and the fox. They sang of the snow and the ice and the wind, of summer and winter, of darkness and light. He loved the stories and he loved the songs, the language of the ice and the song of the wind. And most of all, he loved to hear of the great white bears, and they loved him. He seldom spoke, he often smiled, and always the raven watched over him. It was the end of the summer of his 7th year. His father was hunting with his bone-tipped spear. His mother was taking in the last of the harvest of seal meat and whale. He saw in the snow a pale shard of shining light. A piece of amber, smoothed by the oceans, coloured, clear and beautiful, like a fragment of fire washed ashore from a far-off place. A seal's length away another, and as he looked he saw a trail of shining amber, bright jewels on the hard-packed snow. He thought they were fallen stars. He followed the trail, picking up each shining piece, cupping them in his mittens. His mother would love them. He stooped to pick up the brightest and the best, and in flew the raven and snatched it away. Raven flew over the ice the length of 4 canoes. She dropped the treasure, and it lay like a flame in the cold white. The boy moved to take it, and in flew the bird. It became a dance, boy and raven. As if enchanted by the raven's game, the boy followed the bird out onto the snow and away from home. It was a while before he looked around and realized that he did not know the way back. The wind had blown a fresh dusting of snow over his footprints. He was lost. The boy looked round. The sun was low in the sky. He walked towards the sun, towards where he thought home was, still clutching the smooth beads of amber. He walked over ice ridges and down into valleys. The cold clung to him, it gnawed at him, and fear began to suck at his bones. He walked, but nothing now seemed familiar to him. The sun set, then rose and set again. It took moments. Winter had come. Stars began to fill the sky. He sank into thin powder snow, climbed out and walked on until all his small strength was gone. He fell to his knees, head bowed against the bright whiteness of the snow, and a weary sleep began to overwhelm his heart. It was then that they came for him. He heard them first, the soft paw pad on powder snow, a hiss of hot breath in the dry, cold air, the flick of an ear. He lifted his head and shaded his eyes with his mittened hand. All around him it seemed the snow had come to life. He knew now that he must die. As he reached out a hand to the biggest of the bears, the amber treasure fell to the snow, and as the bear breathed in the child's scent, he heard in his heart the word, brother. For a moment, boy and bear remembered far back, an echo of a memory, the great white bear who had held them close in the blue ice cave. Then the boy thought of his mother and father, even as Brother Bear rubbed his great head against the child, then lifted him onto his back. Fast as the wind, the boy and 7 bears set off across the frozen sea. His father followed. He traced the shadow of the tracks of the boy, a shift in the snow here, a mark of a hand there, hardly a trail at all. He came to the place where the boy had sunk to his knees. All around, in a circle of chaos, the sign of the bears filled him with sorrow. He saw where the amber had fallen, and his heart cracked like summer ice. He stood alone in the white land and made a promise to the memory of the child. He would kill the bear that had taken the life of his child. The boy clung tight to the silver white bear as they ran like the wind over the frozen sea, golden in starlight. Above, the stars of the caribou shone down. They came to a place, a hill of ice. As he slid to the ground, the hill raised its head, a giant of a bear, yellow-white fur, black eyes. Ridges of scars from tears of ice marked her face. The boy reached out a hand to touch and traced down the scar as the great bear breathed in his scent. This was her son, her stolen child. She held him close, the lost one. He buried his face in her golden white fur, breathed in deep the rich smell of his mother, and the memory of the ice cave so long ago flooded back into his mind. All the while the hunter drew closer. Maddened by grief, he followed the trail of the running bears, a river of paw prints on the frozen sea. Ice tears burned on his face, blurring his vision. He came to the gathering and ran into the ring of bears, raising his bone-tipped spear to strike a killing blow. High above, Raven called. The boy looked up to see his father and the spear. He flung himself between the man and the bear. Raven's cry broke the spell of bloodlust, and the hunter's spear tumbled as he scooped up the child. Around the 3, the white bears circled, heads swaying, waiting for a sign from the great she-bear. But she rose, knelt before the hunter and the child. She thanked him for the care he'd shown to her cub. Now he was home, she said, and would stay with his people, the bear people. In turn, the hunter knelt and thanked the she-bear for keeping his child safe. Now he had found him, he would take him home to his people. The boy stood between the man and the bear. He felt that his heart was torn. He wanted to stay with the bears. He wanted to go with his father. The child ran his mittened hand over the bead patterns of his parka. I will stay with the bears in winter, when the sky is dark and life is hard. His father held back a sob in his throat, eyes hot with tears. And I will live with the people in the summer, the boy said. We will hunt together. The great bear took her son's head in her fur-fringed paws and breathed into him 3 times. He felt himself changing, muscle and bone, tooth and claw. Together they carried the hunter back to his home by the fast-freezing sea. From that day the child lived as a bear through the winter, and as he grew he learned the ways of the bears. In summer he lived with the people and taught them the wisdom of the bears. In the dark times of winter his human mother would hang his moccasins close by the fire. She would sing to her children of her first one, the magical shapeshifter, child of her wishes. Out on the ice the great white bear would raise his head to the stars and watch the dance of the northern lights.